Welcome. You are about to take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition show. For the next hour, allow her to prepare you in becoming a magnet for a profound love-infused relationship by identifying and focusing on solutions through love. Awaken the light within and let your essence shine. And now, here's Deborah Beauvais on Love by Intuition, all part of the Dream Vision 7 radio network.
Welcome, everyone. Bonjour, mes amis. And yes, here I am, Deborah Beauvais, founder and owner of the Dream Vision 7 radio network. We are in our 14th year. We are proud to be the media partner for the Omega Institute and announcing that they are reopening after the pandemic this July. So we will be resuming 3 special workshops, 20% off for our listeners. So make sure you go on our site, Dream Visions, all one word with an S on the end, the number 7, radio.com, and hit media partners, and you will see what's happening there. Excuse me. And if you're tuning in for the first time, we're a Boston-based syndicated internet radio station. We're syndicated with a number of stations as well as on just about every podcast directory. So however you listen to Dream Visions, you can, if you have a special platform, you can listen to us there or just listen directly with the apps. And you can listen with Alexa, in the cars, everywhere we are. So I wanted to just share that, this show and the station is all about helping you, the listener, and ourselves, because we learn, our hosts, including myself, that we learn from our guests, from what we share, from our own wisdom, and all of us are coming from our hearts, all uniquely divine, and sharing what they feel will help you. So this is the whole station. This is the mission 14 years ago, and it continues to be. So check us out and pass us along. And one of the things that I like to do with Love by Intuition show is bring on people that are on their spiritual journey. They've awakened and they have learned how to heal. They've learned how to find joy, how to be in joy, and all of the things that we all yearn for, and especially loving ourselves. And that's always been my big journey. And so I have this amazing soul. She has been on Dr. Bernie's show, and she's going to be on Dr. Bernie's show in August, and I had to have her here on the Love by Intuition show. She is a special soul with no stretch of the word. She has written 2 books, and I've read them, and I so resonate, and there's so much power in her words, and it's down to earth. You'll just fall in love with her. Her name is Angela Passidomo Trafford. She is living her dream in Naples, Florida, on the beach. She is, as mentioned, an author of Remembering the Language of God, The Forgotten Path. She's also author of The Heroic Path, One Woman's Journey from Cancer to Self-Healing. She has had cancer 4 times, breast cancer 4 times, and she's thriving. I'm just so excited to have you on, Angela. So, and before we start, Bob is in the house. This is a live show, and anyone that would like to call in, have a question for Angela, myself, a comment, our toll-free number is 833-220-1200. Again, 833-220-1200. So without further ado, Angela, welcome to the show. I love you.
Well, Deborah, I love you. What a wonderful way to introduce me. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, and I am just so blessed to know you, Deborah, and feel such a wonderful connection to you.
I do as well. I do. I just feel you. And for the listeners, you're a spiritual teacher. You're a healer. You do sessions. You're
Yes.
a workshop leader. You're all of these things. But let's start with, we all start on a journey. I believe we choose to be on Earth, and we want to learn through our experiences, and some of these experiences are horrendous, really painful. However, that's how we grow, and that's how we evolve as a species as well. So tell us, you healed yourself. You were diagnosed a number of times. Share with us, at different times of your life, when did this come back, or was it all in a couple of years' time? Share.
No, it was not in a couple of years' time. It's sort of been the journey, part of my journey of my soul, and started back when, in 1985, I had been in an abusive marriage, terribly abusive marriage. And my husband and I had moved up to Canada to build a log cabin in the woods. And we did that. And I loved the nature. Oh, my gosh, the nature was so beautiful. And even building the cabin was a wonderful thing. And then after we began to live in the cabin, the isolation, I think it was, that really brought out the abuse in my husband. And I spent a lot of time just wondering what I should do and going over in my mind, should I leave or should I stay? And I just didn't know what to do. And then, after many years, this was after 17 years, not all of them in Canada, but 17 years of marriage, I came down with cancer. And it was very, very bad. In fact, I cried uncontrollably when they told me I had cancer. And I went and looked in the mirror and realized the reason that I had come down with this illness. And I realized it was going to be all up to me, and that I was either going to leave the marriage or die. I just knew this without any books or any information about cancer or illness available to me at the time. I just knew this. But how to do it? And, having no money and having a baby and two small boys, it just seemed like an impossible task, but it was something that I had to do. And I found myself in the hospital in Canada and facing questions and choices about the course of action I was going to take in my healing process. And the doctor immediately wanted to do a mastectomy because I had such a large lump in my breast. It was 5 3/4 centimeters, almost as big as a golf ball. And I began to realize at that time that these choices were crucial. And I began to pray. And there was a fountain in the lobby of the hospital, and I would go to that fountain, and I would just start praying. And I knew I didn't want to lose my breast. I was 36 years old, I think it was, and I just didn't want to go forward without my breast. And so I began to pray, and I also had a little Walkman in the hospital where I would listen to music. And one of the pieces of music I listened to at the time was the Rational song. And part of that song would say, to sort of rise above your rational mind, and won't you tell me who I am? And I would listen to that over and over again, and realizing that all my life I had kind of listened to other people. When I got married, I listened to my husband, even though I knew a lot of the things that I was doing did not feel right. I was just sort of captured up in the mind and hooked. into a life that I knew was killing me. And so I began to pray. What about the choices I was going to make? And I decided I was not going to have a mastectomy. And that was the first.
How did you feel comfortable? And this, well, even back then more so than nowadays, because now we have alternative therapies, and they're more known than they were back then. How, were you afraid when you made that decision? I mean, I'm with you because I wouldn't want that surgery either. But I feel as though you were quite brave, because the norm is to have, chop everything off and drown yourself in chemo.
That's right. Sure, I was afraid, especially since I was sort of launching off what other people were telling me to do, and starting to go and get in touch with and connect with my inner guidance. And I did that through prayer. And it shook everybody up at the time. When I said I wasn't going to have a mastectomy, and the social worker came up and was trying to convince me to go along with the doctor, and then when I told her the way I felt, then she turned on my side. The doctor wasn't going to do the surgery. The nurses were all trying to get me to sign different kinds of agreements that I wouldn't sign. So I started to stand up for myself and the way I felt. And I remember, and I started to write down some of the things I was learning. And one of the things I wrote down was, as I love and support myself, so does with God and the universe support me. And that became my first affirmation. And because the realization that as I spoke up for myself, which I really was afraid to do, but the more I did this, the more people were listening to me, and the surgeon came up, and then he finally agreed to do the surgery when he was hearing the way I felt about it, and then he drew a picture of how it would look after the surgery. So as I went into that surgery, they agreed to do a lumpectomy, and they were going to take out some of the lymph nodes out of my under my arms. And the doctor gave me a thumbs up, and I gave him a thumbs up, and so I felt comfortable. I felt confident that that my wishes were being done, as the healing seemed to me to be the best way to go forward in my life. So that was the start of it. And immediately when I woke up, I felt to see if my breast was still there, and it was. And that was the beginning. And I was very, very ill. I think there were 24 lymph nodes that were infected by cancer. So they were all, and I could see in their eyes, the doctor's eyes, that they didn't think I was going to make it. And so I would look into their eyes, and I would see this. But you know something, Deb? I really was not afraid. At that point, when I started to decide for myself, I never thought of dying after that. I just knew I was going to go forward, and that somehow God with me, I was going to make it. And so that was the start of a new life.
Yeah.
And
did you realize all the inner work that would be coming in front of you at that time?
I realized all the outer work that was going to be coming toward me. I didn't because I had to find a way to leave the marriage. I had to find a way to survive, and all those things were not figured out. I just knew what I had to do, and I connected with God to help me to do everything that I needed to do. That was the start of my spiritual path. Yeah. And then I did recover.
So how did you know a little bit about my story. So how did you actually leave with the kids and end up going, it was Naples that you first left for, right? Or was it?
Yes.
No, it was.
Yes.
Okay, at that time, okay.
At that time, I did go through, and this is another whole story, but to make it shorter, after I went through a healing process, I did go through the chemo and radiation at that time. I was totally sick. And yes, at the first time. And I was in the hospital most of the time because I was so ill. And meeting people that were dying all around me. And making friends with people, and then they would pass away. And that whole experience was one of an enlightenment and putting me in touch with my mortality. Until we're really in touch with our mortality, we really don't have a concept that someday we are going to leave this earth, and it's going to happen to everybody. And so that was a blessing of it. And then I met a man, and he helped me through the rest of the healing process. In fact, I was very ill, and he used to carry me in and out of the hospital at that time. Oh. And then after it was all over with, the chemo and the radiation, and I was still healing. And I looked on the map, and I just wanted to be in warm weather. I just could not stand to be in the snow anymore, in the cold weather. And I used to watch the barrel outside the cabin and just wait for spring to come. And so we decided, I looked at Florida, and then I pointed to, I think it was around the Panhandle and St. Pete. And then I said, no, I want to go where it's warm all the time. And that's how I found Naples. And we came down to Naples together. And that marriage did not last very long. And I worked as a gardener to make a living, and things were very hard. And then
I have to interject for a minute. Was that man the man that you wrote about, where you devoured each other intimately?
No, that was wasn't him. That relationship happened after I had been divorced quite a while, and then that man that you're talking about.
Angela, and for the listeners, whether you're listening right now while we're live or whether you're listening next week or next month or a year from now, reading that, wow, that was just, it brought back memories and the amazing way the body can bring you such joy and pleasure. So I want to thank you for writing that and you wrote it in detail, but I was there and I understood the pleasure of having, it was great. Thank you for that.
Deborah, I was just looking through my book today, and I discovered that, and I said, how did I ever have the courage to write that?
Yes, well, you were in the moment. You were there at the time, and when you're feeling that, you're really you can be in another dimension, and what a fun dimension it is.
It was. Yes, it was a festival of my senses and of my body. Sure.
That's a great word, a festival. So now when...
Go ahead. I just wanted to tell a little bit of the story, though, that is, such a miracle in my life of when I had the healing.
Yes.
When I moved down to Naples, and then I didn't want anybody to ever know that I had ever had cancer, but God had other plans for me, and my ex-husband came down and he kidnapped my children and brought them back to Canada, and I was just devastated. I remember just running through the streets. I just couldn't believe what had happened. And furthermore, I didn't even have any money to go after him or to do anything. And so also I had become ill again. And so I found out on the same morning that I had lost the custody of my children, and then I had a reoccurrence of cancer. And so
breast
that
cancer again.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was what Don Juan's Castanada's Don Juan would say, the blow that none could parry. And I just fell on my knees.
Yeah, it's the kids that would be so devastating to live through.
Oh, yes.
And they were young. You know, it's different if they were a bit older. Not that it's any easier, but they were young. So we're coming up on a break, Angela. And for everyone listening, we're coming back to more, but I want you to be able to give Angela a call. She does healing sessions via phone. She does medicine card readings, which we'll talk about hopefully later. Her phone number direct is 239-238-1819. You can call Angela after the show, 239-238-1819, and you can find her books on Amazon or wherever you purchase your books. Angela's Remembering the Language of God, The Forgotten Path, will be our Dream Visions June Book of the Month. So stay with us, don't go away. We'll be back in a moment.
Experience a different yet profound healing with Reconnective Healing. Includes yet expands beyond any and all known forms of energy healing. The Reconnective Healing spectrum is comprised of the full healing and evolutionary continuum of energy, light, and information. It allows for healings that are not just physical, not just mental, not just emotional, yet go beyond that to bring healing that includes the evolution of your very being and essence. Deborah Beauvais, trained and certified by world-renowned Dr. Eric Pearl, offers appointment hours at Seacock Family Chiropractic in Seacock, Massachusetts. For questions or to set up both distance or local sessions, call Deborah at 508-431-1959. Again, 508-431-1959. Or go to lovebyintuition.com. That's lovebyintuition.com.
Take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition Show, Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. Eastern. Our message is love in the purest form. The light within us all is a guide to recall our beginning, to learn to love self and humankind, and to feel the higher power of our own divinity. To attract love, one needs to be love. Come join us and step into this glorious vibration called love.
After narrowly surviving the attack on Sandy Hook Elementary, first-grade teacher Caitlin Royd DeBellis was left searching for answers that would never come. Eventually, she chose to focus on questions that could be answered. How do I make sure this tragedy doesn't define us? How do we get our control back? Those two questions led her to found the 501c3 nonprofit organization Classes for Classes. When gifts poured into their classroom, she decided they would help someone else by paying it forward and being kind. This developed into a social network which allows K-8 classrooms to connect so that every student in the United States can learn these crucial lessons. Classes for Classes' mission is to build students' social-emotional intelligence by connecting them to care. All C4C projects are crowdfunded. Any teacher in the U.S. can visit classesforclasses.org. That's classes, the number 4, classes.org. Sign up today.
Delight your kids with an enchanting journey by reading the Paper Doll Kids children's book by Deborah Beauvais and Janine Sullivan. There's even a catchy tune, Kids for Love Song, produced by Bob Sherwood and sung by kids just like yours. The story weaves around 7 paper dolls flying around the world doing good deeds as they bring important attention to our endangered animal friends. There's even a magical ring with a universal message. Kids become interested in service projects, action through compassion, and planting seeds that nurture positive change. The Paper Doll Kids and Kids for Love Song are a production of the Kids for Love Project. Get the book now on Amazon Kindle and the song on CD Baby or iTunes.
Looking for a fun and relaxing getaway? Omega Rest and Rejuvenation Retreats are a great way to unwind and renew your spirit. You can stretch your body, quiet your mind, and do as much or as little as you choose. Join us in May and we'll waive the daily fees. Located in Rhinebeck, in New York's beautiful Hudson Valley, Omega's natural environment and quiet pace allow for extraordinary experiences to unfold. Learn more at eomega.org or call 877-944-2002. That's 877-944-2002.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we're back. And to also check out Angela's website, it's Passidomo.love. Passidomo is P as in play, A-S-S as in Sam, 2 S's, I, D as in dog, O, M as in mother, O, .love. Passidomo.love, which is a little different. And so now, so the kids were kidnapped and taken away. I'm not even going to ask you how you survived, but there's so much I wanted for you to share. Other things, some blessings and miracles and that. So, how long was it after they were kidnapped? Did you see those 3 owls?
Well, first I just want to complete that story because it has a very positive ending. When I did fall down on my knees on my living room floor, I surrendered my life to God, and I said, I just don't know why all this has happened to me. I was so devastated, and I said, I've loved people, and I talked to God, and God said to me, but you haven't loved yourself. And so that sort of signaled something to me in the devastation and tragedy that I was going through. And I also had to try and save my life because I had been diagnosed with cancer again. And that's when I just started driving around in my car, and I wound up at the public library. And the librarian, whom I didn't know, came up to me with a book, and it was Dr. Bernie Siegel's Love, Medicine, and Miracles. And she said, have you read this book? And I said, no. And she said, you should read it. So that was
without even knowing what was happening with you personally.
Really, yes. That was the start of the miracles. And I took the book home, and I resonated with what Bernie was saying in the book. And I started to go within. And to my amazement, this creative visualization came forth from myself of little birds eating golden crumbs, followed by a white light flowing through my body, healing me.
And cleansing you, as you said.
Yes.
Yes. And so I resonated with that when you spoke of it on Bernie's show. The birds represented your immune system, and the crumbs were the cancer cells. And you would let the birds eat their fill, and then you would visualize a bright light, a bright white light entering your head and traveling down through your body, cleansing you. I love that.
Yes.
And so I wanted
anyway.
to just, go right ahead.
Well, I started to get up early in the morning and ride my bicycle, and then when I would finish riding, I would come home and I would sit in front of my aquarium, and I would begin my meditation, and then I would begin my creative visualization of the little birds and the golden crumbs and the white light. And one morning, after about maybe a week or two, I went in to sit on my couch, and without solicitation, I felt this white light coming through the top of my head, and my rational mind became alarmed and panicked and said to me, get up, you're having a heart attack, stop the experience. But I became aware that my rational mind was just a tape of fear and mistrust, and I let go to the light. And afterward, I felt a complete feeling of peace. And I knew something wonderful had happened to me. And the next time I went to the doctor, he was taking another mammogram, and we were going to set up a course of treatment. And after I dressed, the nurse came in and said the doctor wanted another mammogram, and this happened 8 times. And after the 8th time, the doctor came bounding into the room, and he told me the cancer had disappeared. And I told him about the birds and the golden crumbs and the white light, and he said, call it little birds or call it what you will, but you're a very lucky woman. And that opened the door. Meeting Bernie, as they say, when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Sure.
And I began to volunteer at the hospital in the cancer ward, and then I opened up my own practice, self-healing, and began to help cancer patients. And I also contacted Bernie and I invited him to come down, and he came down. We did a workshop together, and that was the start of my spiritual work. And then about 3.5 years later, I went back and I filed for the custody of my children, and I regained the custody of my children. So,
yes, but
that was another miracle.
I wanted to talk about the owls, but prior to that, where you're talking about the cancer coming back, one of my questions were, with the 4 times, did you create different visualizations for each time, or did you utilize that same visualization each time? Well, I know the first time you probably didn't, but the 3 times afterwards, did you use the same visualization?
Not really.
Okay.
That's a hard question to answer because there was very little time. The last 2 times when I had cancer, to do any visualization, I prayed and I made up my mind what I was going to do. And both those times, I had been in the work, my spiritual work, helping people all over the country for a long time. And I knew right away that the cancer was very, very small when they found it, and I had it removed. And then I knew what it meant. I knew it meant I had to change my life. And so each time, that's what I did. I did soul searching. I let go of relationship, and I got back on my path again.
Right.
So that is the way I handled the last 2. Pardon me?
Would you say the root of everything for you was not valuing yourself and loving yourself for who you were at that moment?
I would say so. Say so. I mean, we could talk for hours. I could tell you more about my journey, but I would say so. And now, as I mentioned on the show with you when we did the show with Bernie, today I think of it as a man named Robert Gilley said he believed that cancer was an obstruction of the soul's flow. And that deeply resonates with me because now I think of it as it's almost like going down a one-way street and you get stopped by a policeman and you get a ticket and then you have to find your way back to the right road. And so that's the way I think of it now, even though, of course, it's always a devastating thing to find that that you have come down with that illness. But I treat it a lot differently now, and I do the soul searching involved and get in touch with my body and make the changes. And it isn't easy because sometimes you really feel you're just going along on your path and everything is fine. And yet there's something. And it often involves a fixed point of view that you have adopted, say, on a relationship or something else in your life that you have to deeply search through and let go of. And so, letting go to God and asking God for help and finding what it is. And it's hard. It's hard.
It is, and there's so many facets, and it's like a little puzzle where you get. It's something that, I mean, I'll say this right on radio. The last 2.5 years, I've been going through Lyme co-infections, which have been debilitating, to say the least. It was a year before it was even diagnosed. But what it gave me an opportunity to go deep within my soul to find out what was going on. Was it that something else, something that I already worked on, still needed work? But it all stems back from when my husband was killed in that accident, and the fear of wanting to go with him. And then I had my 3 daughters stay here, and then the fear of living with the chance that something could happen to one of the girls. And that was the root. And what I said to my mother-in-law, Rick's mom, early on was that if I could, what I said a few times, if I could just have his head, I would be happy. That's how much we were connected. And so during this process of the last 2.5 years, that's a phrase that came up where I said, everything is coming to a head. And then that, for the listeners, that's a little nugget. And it immediately brought me back to when I said that after he passed, crossed over. And so this is what I mean, and you know very well, Angela, it's a little bit of a nugget. And if you're paying attention and looking and listening, then you connect those dots. And that was a huge
You couldn't
piece.
let go.
Yeah, and that was revisiting all that, and some of the, and there were other phrases too that just popped up that I haven't said from years back, but it was back then, and I was really holding that, you know, the emotions within my body, and so
and when you do that, you actually stop growing, and so it's just like, and I used to tell this story at workshops. It's just like if there was a tree on a hillside, and the tree got struck by lightning. The branches fell off. Then it grew again, and then it got struck again, and the tree said, you know, I'm not going to do this anymore. You know, I'm just going to curl up inside myself. And what would happen to that tree if it didn't grow anymore? And that's really what happens to us. And we don't have the information.
Yeah, and you get stuck in that space of being ill. You get stuck you're in a fog, a whole thing when you're ill, and so you're not growing. You're not growing.
Yeah,
but
and you know,
if you can get to the depth of it, and then embrace and release, you're on your way.
Yes, it can make the connection, and that's the whole thing. You know, illness, I have found in my own journey and with so many others that I work with, it's a boundary. And, you know, if you can't say no, when you're ill, you can say no. And so illness is a boundary. And it helps us be able to say no and turn the focus on ourselves without the guilt, the ensuing guilt. And so that's another part of loving yourself, you know, to be able to do that. And yes, it's all about loving the self. And we hear, you know, we're not supposed to have a self. What?
Right. I feel as though every man and every woman, that is we are love. We are divine love. We are in the light, but when we're on the earth, we're here to learn about love. And we're all yearning, we're all needing that love, and it all starts with going within and loving yourself.
Yes, it does. Yeah, you can't love anybody else if you don't love yourself. Yeah. And yet, how do we love ourselves? That's a whole journey of how do you love yourself. So that's the whole thing, is love. And
well,
of
maybe
course,
we should
God
talk
is
a
love.
little bit about that when we come back from the break. But I wanted to talk about there's so much I wanted to share for the listeners. You know, your little one that was in the woods, and that was a miracle in itself. The 3 owls that I brought up. Well,
I will tell the
John in the crib,
so
your youngest one. John in the. I have to take a minute, just quickly for a minute. Talk about John in the crib. When you wrapped your.
Oh my gosh! You gave me the chills.
I know that.
Yes.
Say it.
This happened when my firstborn he was standing in his crib, and he was crying, and I had just come out of the shower, and I was trying to comfort him, and he was inconsolable. So I put him in the crib again, and he was standing up just crying, and I went into the bathroom, and I wrapped a towel around my head. And I came out, and the minute he saw me, he stopped, he put his palms, his hands together, and he bowed.
I get goosebumps on that, because this is a baby.
I do too.
In the crib. And once you did that, so you know that's another lifetime, that's an experience, and he actually bowed with his hands together. A baby.
Yes. And I'm still getting chills thinking about it. And of course, I've had other awarenesses of that particular past life. So, yes, that was a little miracle that happened.
Yeah,
and if you want me to, I will tell the story of the owls when we have a chance.
Yes, well, the hour is going by so quickly, but Bob, we'll take our break and we'll be back on this. I mean, I want to do however many... We need to go on and on. But anyway, we'll be back in a moment.
Take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition Show, Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. Eastern. Our message is love in the purest form. The light within us all is a guide to recall our beginning, to learn to love self and humankind, and to feel the higher power of our own divinity. To attract love, one needs to be love. Come join us and step into this glorious vibration called love.
Are you searching for a way to help create global change? Dream Vision 7 Radio Network's vision is to have an eclectic group of radio hosts dedicated to educating, enlightening, and helping humankind with positive messages and tools that enhance lives using different modalities and programs. If you would like to join our team and help illuminate the universe, call Deborah at 508-226-1723 or Deborah at dreamvision7radio.com.
Delight your kids with an enchanting journey by reading the Paper Doll Kids children's book by Deborah Beauvais and Janine Sullivan. There's even a catchy tune, Kids for Love Song, produced by Bob Sherwood and sung by kids just like yours. The story weaves around 7 paper dolls flying around the world doing good deeds as they bring important attention to our endangered animal friends. There's even a magical ring with a universal message. Kids become interested in service projects, action through compassion, and planting seeds that nurture positive change. The Paper Doll Kids and Kids for Love Song are a production of the Kids for Love Project. Get the book now on Amazon Kindle and the song on CD Baby or iTunes.
Why are we here? How can we be happy? Questions asked from millennials to boomers. Crappy to Happy, Sacred Stories of Transformational Joy answers them using true stories of grit, grace, and love. James Redfield, author of The Celestine Prophecy, wrote in the foreword, "This book is a seminar about emerging truths and offers grounded solutions through the art of the comeback." Dr. Bernie Siegel, a contributing author, wrote, "Bodies die, but spirits and consciousness survive and recycle." So, grab some tissues, open your book, and prepare to cry and laugh till it heals. Crappy to Happy by Reverend Ariel Patricia and Kathleen O'Keefe Cannabis. Available from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and booksellers worldwide.
Motherhood is not easy. It's one of the hardest jobs in the world. Yet mothers receive so little support, even in spiritual communities where motherhood is often more valued.
What if you could always feel capable of handling the rigors and demands of being a mother in today's world?
What if you could let go of feeling like you're alone and don't have support?
What if you could let go of your fears that you're going to get it all wrong, make a mistake, or raise your child that repeats all the mistakes that you've experienced?
Experience the mothering movement and open your heart to mothering and being mothered in a way that allows acceptance, forgiveness, and vision for the future. Go to 1111mag.com and join the Mothering Movement course.
It's a child's job to play, to learn, and to have fun. It's an adult's job to keep them safe. Did you know that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused before the age of 18? Every day, families enter the Children's Advocacy Center because a child's courage to tell someone what happened to them. Keeping our children safe starts with a conversation. This is Michelle Aranger, Executive Director of the Children's Advocacy Center. Learn more on how to keep your child safe. Visit cacofbc.org. This message made possible by the Fall River Rotary Club.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we are back with Angela Passidomo Trafford, and we are talking so much depth about her life and her experiences, and that experience with your little one in the crib is so profound. If you want to elaborate a little bit, we're going to have to do more shows, because
I would love to.
But when? Because we're booked, but we'll figure it out. So share a little bit more, because before the break you did say that there were other things that surfaced that were tied into that lifetime.
Yes. A little P.S. about my son. After I had all my experiences and I reacquired the custody of my children and became a spiritual teacher, he would often say, Mom, you're not my guru, Mom. You're not my spiritual teacher. and so it would remind me of what he had done as a child, and he was determined, that he was going to steer his own course. And the other sort of odd event that happened, the second event was I was at the dentist. And my secretary was with me, and the dentist was working on my tooth, but he was having trouble with the nitrous oxide. And so he was asking her to just squeeze the bag, and she squeezed the bag. And all of a sudden I looked at her, and I absolutely remembered her from another life. And I said her name. And I said to her, remember that name. Remember that name. And she was looking at me, just staring at me. And I absolutely recognized her from another life. I can't remember what the name was. It was very clear to me at the time. But and there's been a lot of other things, too, of other lives that I've had. I have a past life that I remember with Bernie Siegel in Egypt. And the first time I ever met Bernie, when I looked at him, I said, geez, he reminds me of an Egyptian. It was just like a wild thought, But then I started to have these recollections of a past life with him. Mm-hmm. And also I just wanted to mention some of the little miracles that happened along the way. When I was praying about going back to reacquire the custody of my children, I was praying, and I had 3 sons. And by that time, I had started a group. I used to do a group at the Unity Church, and I was in my work. And I was early for my group. I was walking along the grounds of the church, and all of a sudden, I see these 3 owls, these 3 baby owls on a branch. And I just stopped. And one by one, the little owls just flew, sort of dropped down into the grass. And I just, it was just like the answer to my prayers. And I was, this is an affirmation from nature, from God, that I meant to go forward on this, and I will acquire the power and the funds to do it. And I just stayed there talking to the little owls, and members of my group came. They couldn't believe it either. And it was just so powerful. And that was one of the sacred affirmations that signaled me to go ahead and that I would have success on my quest.
And you did. Somehow, some way, everything came together, and you won the kids back.
I determined it. Yes, I determined that I would shake the universe for my bounty. And that's what I did. And I did reacquire the custody of my children. And then when I was raising them without any child support, I had to do it all myself. I was asking God, I said, am I doing a good job with my children? Am I doing it right? And I went to take a walk on the beach, and as I was walking, a wave washed up on my feet. And in the wave, there was a ring. And I picked the ring up, and it was a silver ring, but it was 3 rings fastened together. And they were dolphins, 3 dolphins. And, that's another, it was like a moment with God that I remember. And indeed, this was one of the material affirmations that I was able to keep and feel and look at and say, this is my answer. I am doing a good job. Thank you, God.
Right. Because you do wonder, especially when you're being the mom and the dad, you wonder if you are doing a good job. And then, when looking back, you think, well, gee, if I did this, or maybe I should have done that. But it all goes back to love, and that's what I received with all your writings, is that those boys, and I know my girls, regardless of what happened and the struggles and the hardships, they know they are loved. And your boys know that they were loved. And it took a while because your boys were angry and, all of that. But when a child knows they are loved, that is the foundation. That's what we were talking earlier, the yearning for love. When that is reinstated within them, then the hardships, you can get through that because you have that foundation within.
Yes.
So
that's very true, very wise. And if you don't have that foundation, it's hard. And so we're very, very fortunate if we have a loving mother, especially a mother, a loving father, and it's a great blessing. And yes,
it is.
That's true. That's true. And my children do know they're loved, and I imagine very clearly that your daughters know that as well.
Yes, I know that now. Yes, and it's one of the, we've got a couple of minutes, and one of the things that you mentioned earlier was when you looked in the eyes of the doctor and you knew what he was thinking about with your cancer. And during your healing, hundreds and hundreds of people working with them so that they can heal, there was a mom that came in with her 9-year-old son who had brain cancer. And without getting into the details because we don't have time, he looked in your eyes, Angela. And what did he say?
I asked him, I said to him, do you believe that you're going to get well? And he said, yes. And I said, why do you believe that? And he said, well, when I looked into the eyes of the doctors, I didn't believe it. But when I look into your eyes, I know I'm going to get well. And that says it all. And he did. He did get well.
Right. And he could see in the eyes that they thought that he was going to die. And although we are eternal, but he was going to be done on this earth. But seeing in your eyes, Angela, the love and and the God love right in your eyes, he knew that he was going to live, and he did. And
and I totally believe that. And so that shows you how important it is for practitioners and doctors working in this field to project an energy of trust and love and hope to people that are ill. And a lot of doctors get very wrapped up in their ego, and they forget that. And in their medical training, as Bernie can tell you many stories, I can too, about, doctors need to realize that, and a lot of them do. And if you have a doctor that doesn't, find one that does. It's very important.
Yes, that's a powerful sentence right there, and message to end the show is, if they don't, find another one, because I believe that there should be a balance between conventional medicine and alternative therapies and supplements, all the different things, and we can live in harmony. The medical world can live in harmony with practitioners and others, and there's many MDs that are now functional MDs, and like Dr. Carolyn and Dr. Malen, we have, they're both MDs, but they went on to, and so there's a balance. They can pull the wisdom from both sides, which I think is amazing. So,
it's
Angela,
crucial. It's
for
crucial.
Everyone, Angela's going to be back. I don't know how we're going to do it or what we're going to do because we're all booked, but we will do something to have you back, because I just feel your soul, and you need to be talking with us so that others can learn and heal and find the joy, and that's what this station's all about, and you're it, lady.
Thank you so much, Deb, and you're a blessing, not only in my life, but to everybody that comes in contact with you and all our listeners. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Thank you for being you, and I want to hear more. So get the books, everyone, The Heroic Path, and Remembering the Language of God. And one more thing, go to her website, Passidomo, Passidomo, Passidomo.love. Okay, we've got to fly. I love you.
That's what it's all about.
Everyone. Au revoir.
Oh, what a wonderful show, Deb.
Are you seeking a clearer path to love? Then tune in to the Love by Intuition show next week. All designed to your highest good. To contact Deborah Beauvais, owner of Empowered Connections, call her at 508-226-1723. That's 508-226-1723. Or link on to lovebyintuition.com. Remember, we are all one, and we are all part of the miracle of love.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.